Today is Thursday, June 30th, and today we went to Guerin to do some hill work. And so when I got there, I was the only one from the team there. And then after going around the parking lot like once or twice, Cody showed up, and then Mohit did shortly after. And then it was just the three of us for the practice today, because apparently no one else was going to show because they were all busy or out of town. So to start off practice, we hit our bags, and then we did one lap around the field at a relatively, it was a moderate pace. And so we stayed together, we did one lap, and then we did glute activations, with which Mohit led, and we went through them at our own pace. Not too fast, not too slow, just the right pace. And then after we did glute activation, we went and started the 3-mile course, which we were gonna be doing twice. Well, the loop, the figure 8. So we started where they would start the race. So Mohit showed us how the race would start, and then since he was not too sure about the loops, because it's been a while since he's ran them, I helped him out a little throughout the time, like showing, like telling them, yeah, you're on the right path, like, oh, here's where we turn, like that kind of thing, like just to double check. So they started off pretty far back. Like, I was surprised that the race like started so far back, because usually we start next to the barn, but they started in the field. So yeah, it's kind of surprised starting there. So we made our way over and around the lake and then up the hill. So I already knew that I was going to have trouble keeping up with them like the other days, because they push it pretty hard up the hills and then like chill it out for downhill. But usually if I push it really hard on the uphill, I won't have anything left, and I'll need to like take it really slow for a while and then build it up again so that I can keep going. So a little bit through the thing, they had to stop and wait for me, like getting up there. No, not getting up there. I think they didn't have to wait for me getting up. I was pretty close behind them, so they just like kind of opened the gate for me, and then we all ran through it together. And then we started the course by going around the hill, not up the hill, but around the hill. So we did that first, and I fell a little behind, but not too much. They didn't have to wait for me that time, and then we went up and around, and then up the hill. When those uphills were kind of killer. My heart is not strong enough for this. Just kidding. Well, no, I'm not kidding. But yeah, it's pretty tough. Like, I was kind of out of breath. Like, my shoulder was kind of hurting after, like, on the second lap through everything we were. Yeah, I was hurting. Definitely out of breath. These spikes itch. But yeah, so on the uphills, once I caught up with them, I was trying to push it as much as they were, but by the time I got to the relatively flat ground, it was getting kind of hard to keep up with them, so I had to, like, pull back and, like, take it at my own pace and not, like, try and keep up with them, because if I did, I would have burned myself out even more. Or puked. Yeah. So I went at my own pace, and then after that, that first really hilly part, we went to the second part of the figure 8, and they waited for me to cross the gate before they started on it. So we all started it together, and so again, like, the uphills were kind of like hard to do. yeah, and so when we got to where you're supposed to turn, they didn't know where to go. So I had to tell them, like, hey, yeah, turn here, from, like, where I was, which I was, like, further up here, and, like, they were over here, and they had to turn. So we did that, and then they held the gate, Mohit held the gate open for me so that I could run through it, and then we all, like, started on the little, like, around the hill thing together. So we did that, and it was a lot more incline than I remember. Like, I thought it was, like, pretty evenly, like, uphill, like, slight incline, then slight decline. But it was mostly incline, so it's kind of sad about that, because you're pushing uphill, or you're pushing on the incline almost the entire way around the hill, but whatever, not much you can do about that, except for run it backwards and have mostly decline. But we didn't do that, so yeah. And then we finally got around the hill. They had waited for me for a little bit so that we could all start on the next loop around together. And so when we did that, we decided as a group to do that hill backwards. So we were going up the hills first, and then going around the hill, and then doing the rest of the figure eight normally. So we did that, and I don't know whether it was harder or easier to get up those hills instead of down the hills. Like, you know, instead of going up it, you're going down the, well, whatever, because you're doing it backwards, so all the inclines would be declines, and then all the inclines. So, yeah, and so I'm not sure whether it's easier to go regular way or the backwards way, but all the inclines work pretty hard, though I think you have less when you do it backwards. So I think it's easier that way, but they're still pretty hard either way, because you have to figure out where to grip. And so we went around. They waited a little bit for me to get to the bottom because I had fallen behind again, because I had to stop on the first incline because I was pretty out of breath and I was really, really tired. So I just, like, stopped for a quick second, like, took a few, like, breaths, and then kept going, because I knew I would be able to keep going as long as I had that break, because I didn't really take a break when they had stopped for me. I just kind of kept going, like, we agreed on it together, and then we set off. I barely stopped running, so I just wanted that quick break, and then I was back into it uphill, and yeah. So I didn't take a break when they were waiting for me. I just kind of kept going with it, because then when I got to them, they started taking off, so I kept going, and I had to slow down because I was trying to catch up to them on the downhill, so I was expending a lot of energy that way. So when I got to them, I needed to take it at a slower pace than they did. So on the around, I was kind of far behind them because I needed that little break. Like, I needed to slow it down more than they did. So yeah, and then they waited for me again to start the next, like, part of the loop. And that loop was a little bit better because it's barely any inclines. So I made sure to push it, not, like, too fast, but at a pace that I could keep. And so I did that, and then I could see them turning around, but this time they didn't wait for me, which I didn't really mind. Like, yeah, we all want to finish this, and whatever. I wasn't that far behind. Well, I was a little far behind them, but not too much. So I did that, and we went around, and then after I caught up with them, because they stopped for me before they went down, we went down. Mohit stretched for a bit, and then we started heading down. And then we did the part around the lake, and then they went, like, the long way around, like, following the path around the farmhouse. And we did that. which I was kind of confused that we were doing, because usually we just, like, go through the, under the shade to the trees to the, farmhouse, but we didn't really do that this time. We went around, so I was like, okay, whatever, I'll, follow you guys, basically. And so, yeah, once we did our leg swings, we did drills. We didn't do all the drills. We did a lot of the drills. We did all of the fast drills and, the beginning ones for the slow ones. So, like, we did, where you switch the way you walk, toes in, toes out, heels in, heels out, and then sliders, and then, we just did the fast drills. And then after that, we were done, so we called our parents and left. Yeah, and this time I should have asked them to stay with me, but no one stayed with me, so my mom was kind of mad when she came to pick me up, and no one was there with me. So yeah, next time I'm going to ask one of them to stay with me instead of walking down to, like, 7-Eleven or the gas station. So yeah, overall today I only felt a little bit, like, the soreness in my hips and my butt from, like, the exercise we were doing yesterday. And then yeah, pretty good day. We did 6 miles about. Yeah, so I will check back in tomorrow.